Yo, what's going on, y'all? It's Cone, and the Eastern Conference Finals are set. It's the New York Knicks, the Indiana Pacers, battling it out to see who ultimately represents the East in the NBA Finals, a sentence I didn't think I was going to say before the season, before these playoffs. Hell, even before last round, I thought it was going to be Cavs versus Celtics. They were the juggernauts all year, but instead, they both get knocked off by these two teams looking to make it back to the NBA Finals for the first time in over 25 years for both of these teams. It has been a really long time, and one of them is going to get to that point. I'm really excited about this. Again, it's not the matchup I think anybody was expecting, but it's one that's going to continue to deliver on the theme of these playoffs, and that's just ridiculous basketball. Both these teams have had some of the most absurd playoff games I've ever seen throughout these runs. They played each other in the playoffs last year in a series that went to 7 games. There is so much to think about, to break down, to talk about with this matchup, so I want to go ahead and get into it. And of course, at the end, I'll give you my prediction for who ultimately wins this and goes on to the NBA Finals to either face the Minnesota Timberwolves, the Oklahoma City Thunder, or the Denver Nuggets. That series still going on, Game 7 on Sunday. So let's go ahead and first talk about how we got here. The Pacers took out the Bucks and the Cavs each in 5 games, and they have looked like the most consistent team in the playoffs so far. There have been no real hiccups. There's, one loss in each of those series, but outside of that, they've been perfectly fine. Now, the Bucks did end up dealing with a Dame injury, and the Cavs were battered with a couple injuries to a few different guys, but even when everybody was out there in the court, even when, it's like, oh, maybe they're still going to be able to take this game despite being injured, both the Bucks and the Cavaliers, the Pacers just surged back. They've looked like an absolute buzzsaw for almost every single second of their playoff run so far. Meanwhile, for the Knicks, they took down the Pistons and Celtics each in 6 games and had to overcome some deficits along the way. They were down 20 points multiple times in that Celtics series and still managed to come ahead with a win. And people are going to talk about, the Jason Tatum injury, and maybe the Celtics come back from down 3-1 with Tatum not hurt, but they took that 3-1 lead before the Tatum injury, and a lot of people are saying they were going to lose in 5 games, 4 games, 6 games was my ultimate prediction, and they proved everybody very, very wrong. Both these teams have done exactly that, and with the Knicks, they just continue to find ways to get it done, whether it's clutch plays from Mikal Bridges or end-of-game clutch player of the year level heroics from Jalen Brunson or Karl-Anthony Towns or a multitude of guys. Both these teams have absolutely earned their spots here, regardless of what some people might say. If we take a look at the season series, the Knicks won 2 out of their 3 games, one back in October and one in February, both those wins coming by double digits. Well, the Pacers win came in November, and that was also by double digits, 11 points. So it's not really been a lot of close games, any close games between these two teams so far. At least one, if not both teams have scored 120 plus points in every matchup so far, so be ready for some offense. Although both these teams have gotten here also because of the way they've stepped up on the defensive end. So it's not going to be just ridiculous shootouts every night, but there is obviously potential for those to pop up. And of course, we did see these two teams play in the playoffs last year where the Pacers beat the Knicks in 7 games in Madison Square Garden, but that was a matchup riddled with injuries to the New York Knicks, and the Pacers look a lot more formidable now than they did even in their Eastern Conference Finals run last year. I think both these squads are vastly improved, and it's going to result in just this insane back and forth all series. So let's get into the keys to the matchup, and the first thing I think about is, can this Knicks defense slow this Pacers attack? Because so far, the Pacers have been completely unbothered by anybody. They have a 117.4 offensive rating, which is the clear best out of any of the remaining teams in the playoff field, and only second overall behind Cleveland, who got that massive boost from beating Miami by like 50 points every night. Their effective field goal percentage at the moment is 58.3 as a team. That would be the highest mark in NBA playoff history if it holds. We have never seen an offense kind of clicking the way that the Pacers is right now. Everyone on this team has been super efficient. Their shot quality is only 7th in the playoffs, so it's not like they're getting wide open looks. They're making tough buckets. They just click. They've been clicking at an unreal level, and a lot of that is Tyrese Haliburton, who creates something out of nothing basically every single time. He makes the right read pretty much anytime you put the ball in his hands. He's going to get downhill, he's going to kick out to a shooter, he's going to knock down a step back 3 with the hitchiest jumper you've ever seen in your life that always seems to fall. He's going to hit somebody on the roll, a lob. It doesn't matter. Haliburton is one of the best offensive table setters we have in the sport, and one of the best ones in the modern era. He has been so elite in that regard, And there's a lot of other guys helping them, like Siakam is a big time threat. He's been a perfect second option. Myles Turner is scary as a stretch and interior big. You've got Andrew Nembhard, who continues to relentlessly rise in the playoffs. Aaron Nesmith, Obi Toppin, Benedict Mathurin, Ben Shepherd, pretty much everybody that can throw at you. TJ McConnell can hurt you in one way or another, and Haliburton is just the guy who goes ahead and sets everybody up, and when he gives them the ball, they go ahead and do the rest, and pretty often it results in a bucket or 2 or 3 or 4 or 50, and suddenly you are buried under offense. All those guys provide the Pacers endless bodies to throw at this Knicks defense, a Knicks defense which, credit to it, has stepped up far beyond what I thought its capabilities were from what we saw in the regular season. A big part of why I thought they would lose to the Celtics is because Boston torched them. The Knicks just weren't a great defensive team. They were above average, but they were nowhere near elite. They have been a lot better, and a lot of the reasons they've won these close comeback games have been because of their defensive plays at the end. You know, you think about the Mikal Bridges steal, for example, or today there was a moment in the Celtics game where Mitchell Robinson is clamping up on like 4 different people all throughout the possession. They've been a lot better on the defensive end. Now, they did have a few rough defensive games against the Celtics. Games 3, 4, and 5 were 3 of their worst in this run so far, especially game 5 where Boston just picked the Knicks apart despite not having Jason Tatum. But for the most part, the Knicks have been really solid defensively, and that's going to have to hold up. You need OG Anunoby to be this all-defensive player he's been throughout this run and was throughout the regular season. You need Mikal Bridges to be the elevated version of himself defensively that we've seen in this run so far too. Mitchell Robinson has to continue to be a game changer and hopefully hit some free throws so he can stay on the court. Karl-Anthony Towns, Jalen Brunson, those two guys are going to get targeted. The Celtics tried to do that, although it wasn't nearly as much as I would have liked to see, not nearly as much as they did in the regular season. The Pacers are going to go at those guys. They're going to get that switch, or they're going to force them in rotations, and they need to go ahead and find their guys quickly, or else threes are going to start raining in from the corner, from the wings, everywhere on the court. Knicks also have to be really good in transition because the Pacers will run and gun off a make, off a miss. It doesn't matter. They want to push the ball. They are this high-powered, high-paced offense. Pacers, it's appropriate. While for the Knicks, they're a much, slower, methodical type of offensive team. It's a big clash of styles here, which I think is going to provide for some interesting basketball. But yeah, you've got to get back in transition. You cannot let them get easy makes coming off, again, a make or a miss. They'll make a basket, the Knicks, and the Pacers will suddenly have the ball up towards the basket in like 3.5 seconds. One thing that does play into the Knicks' favor here is that the Pacers so far are outperforming their shot quality. Like, the efficiency that they've been showing despite the shot quality is abnormal. The stats would say that that should regress a little bit, that maybe it's unsustainable. I mean, you saw what they did in that second quarter against the Cavs, and I believe it was game 4, where they physically could not miss from anywhere. You have to imagine at some point that some regression might hit for them. Now, I'm not saying they're going to just forget how to score, but if a few less threes start falling from some of their role players, I'm not going to be super surprised. And it's up to the Knicks defense to keep the pressure on to make that regression a reality, because if guys are just getting open, there's going to be no regression. They're just going to knock down all their shots. So the Knicks have to be really steady on the defensive end, even steadier than they've been so far against this white-hot Indiana offense. One thing that does scare me a little bit with the Pacers is if some of their shooters, their role players, aren't performing at this god-tier level like we've seen them so far. It could get a little bit shaky because they don't really have that go-to bail you out type of scorer. Like, Haliburton is able to do it at times, and Siakam can do that as well, but they don't have like a Jalen Brunson, someone who's capable of putting up like 28, 29, 30 points a night if they really need him. Again, the Pacers are a lot more of a team offensive approach, but sometimes in the playoffs, if things start to dry up, you just need somebody that can go get you that bucket. And so if we do start to see guys be a little bit shakier here, especially their role players, then I do worry a little bit about how some of that late game offense can come by. Which brings me to the Knicks offense versus the Pacers defense. Now, the Knicks offense hasn't been incredibly potent here in the playoffs, but there is huge potential. Like, Brunson's dropping 28 a game, and we talk about what he does in the final moments of these contests. He is lights out when it gets within the final few minutes. Karl-Anthony Towns, of course, prone to offensive explosions. OG's had some big outings these playoffs and also down the stretch of the regular season. Mikal has come up huge for the Knicks in a multitude of games on the offensive end in addition to his game-saving defensive plays. It's a team with several guys who can give you fits on any given night, albeit a bit inconsistently. I almost always expect Brunson to play well, even if he is a little inefficient. It feels like he always kind of figures it out by the second half, but OG feels like he'd go for 6 or 24. Mikal Bridges feels kind of similar. Even for Karl-Anthony Towns, like, that has kind of been something that's happened throughout the playoffs here, and this Pacers defense can provide real problems. They defend a lot better than I think people realize. Nembhard is a legit stopper. He's going to have the task of Jalen Brunson. Aaron Nesmith is a force on the defensive end. Pascal Siakam defense. Myles Turner is a shot shot blocker. And Haliburton made more than a few plays down the stretch of some of those games against the Cavaliers on the defensive end to close it out. The Knicks are going to need those guys around Brunson to be consistent, and I am really excited about that Brunson-Nembhard battle last year in their second round series. Brunson dropped 29.7 points per game on 46% shooting, which isn't shabby at all. Like, that is really, really good. Nembhard's going to hold him in check, and if he is able to do that, especially in the clutch, then it could really derail things for the Knicks. That is one of the key battles right there in this entire series. And another key thing for the Knicks, Cat is a guy to really keep an eye on in this matchup, specifically the three-point shooting, because you think of Karl-Anthony Towns, you and I, as potentially the best three-point shooting big in the history of the sport. But so far throughout these playoffs, and specifically in that matchup going up against the Boston Celtics, it really wasn't his MO. He shot just 19 threes all series against Boston and made just 3 of them. It's not a good percentage, it's not a lot of volume, and I think his floor stretchability is going to be a necessity for opening things up against Indiana, who again have been playing really good defense. And if you're the Knicks, you're not really a run and gun team. You're going to be trying to break down their set defense most times. Cat being that shooter, someone that is going to put up a lot of them and knock down a lot of them, I think is going to be really, really important. They need a lot more Cat. Tibbs has to get him involved, and this is a conversation we've had all throughout the season, throughout the opening of the playoffs. Cat has to be involved. He's got to be a shooter. They've got to find ways to make that happen scheme-wise. Which brings us to the depth conversation. The Pacers are for sure a deeper team, while the Knicks, I would say, have the better top-end talent, so that's another dichotomy here in this matchup. Fatigue could maybe factor in because Knicks guys have racked up a lot of minutes, and Indiana's going to have more rest going into the series, although then you could have the rust versus rest conversation, although maybe none of that matters because the Eastern Conference Finals actually don't even start till Wednesday, May 21st, so the Knicks are going to have 4 days off. The Pacers are going to have more than that. Like, it's something that I don't think will apply that much, really. It's just a question of the ultimate wear and tear from the season and these playoffs so far, where the Knicks top guys have had to play a lot more minutes than Indiana's guys, so we'll see if that's a cumulative factor in this at all. And also, I think just in general, the Knicks are going to need Deuce McBride and Mitchell Robinson to really elevate, to match some of those minutes for the Pacers bench guys who are always contributing, and maybe a couple good spot minutes from like Campaign or Precious. You probably don't want them to play that much, but if either one of them could give you some decent run at some point in the series, that would also be very much appreciated. It's also key for the Pacers role players in general to play as well as they have, because again, if you see a little bit of regression, which role players are prone to doing at times, they lose a big advantage, which is that depth. And then a few final notes. The Knicks, of course, have home court advantage, although both these teams are really, really good on the road, so I don't even know how much that's going to matter for either team in this matchup. I feel like that really won't play too much of a factor. Rick Carlisle and Tom Thibodeau, both very experienced coaches. Carlisle's won a championship, Tibbs has not, but he's been on a million of these playoff runs. I feel like it's pretty even overall in terms of the coaching matchup. I've been pleasantly surprised with a lot of stuff that Tibbs has done throughout this run. I give like a slight edge to Rick Carlisle, but I don't think it's anything too big to like swing the series or anything. And with all that in mind, it's time to go ahead and make a prediction. I believe this is going to be a war of a series. I would be stunned if it doesn't go at least 6 games. I think it's probably going to go 7 between these two teams. I love how unexpected it is, how everybody's like, oh, it's gonna be Cavs and Celtics, and instead, one of these two teams is going to get to the NBA Finals. Either the Pacers to their second finals ever, first since 2000, or the Knicks get to the finals for the first time since 1999 in New York City, where I live, potentially burns down. It's really fun either way, and I think this is awesome for basketball. We are getting to see the parity era in full effect. Now that one of these teams were expected to be here, one of them is going to end up in the NBA Finals, and the question is who? And for me personally, I'm going to go with the Indiana Pacers. I think the Pacers get it done in 7 games. I trust Indiana's offensive attack a little bit more than the Knicks, and I think they could go toe-to-toe with them defensively. I give the Knicks the slight defensive edge, the Pacers a slight offensive edge, and they've just been so white hot. I don't think I can bet against them at this point. Again, they could be in to fall down a little bit from the pedestal they're sitting on that offensive end, but even if they fall a little bit, they've been just such a reliable buzzsaw. Like, I can't get out of my head what they did to the Cleveland Cavaliers at times, the way they picked apart the Milwaukee Bucks. They have been the most consistent team in the playoffs up until this point. Meanwhile, for the Knicks, I do worry about the lack of depth that they have, some of the inconsistencies with Mikal and OG, and how involved is Cat going to be? Can Tibbs find a way to get him more involved? I really don't know if I believe he can. Also, the fact that they had to consistently come from behind in a big way against the Boston Celtics in a lot of those games, that they made those comebacks, that should be a huge notch for them. But if you go down like that against the Pacers, I just don't know if you're going to be able to replicate the same comeback success. I think they need to get off to better starts. They need to be more consistent. I haven't seen it enough so far. Well, with the Pacers, again, they've just been the most consistent team. They've been incredibly convincing. I don't want to bet against them here. I'm going to go with Indiana to go to the NBA Finals for the first time since 2000, their second finals ever, seeking their first chip. I'm going to have the Eastern Conference Finals MVP be Tyrese Haliburton. I thought about going with Siakam, but I think if they win this series, it's going to have to be Haliburton. He's going to have to play really, really well, play make, score, all that stuff. I think he's able to. I think the Pacers advance, go to the NBA Finals to face off against whoever comes out of the Western Conference between one of those three teams, the Nuggets, the Thunder, or the Minnesota Timberwolves. Now, with all that being said, those are my thoughts on this series. Let me know down below in the comments who you're predicting to win, how many games, who is your Eastern Conference Finals MVP. Let me know if there's other keys to the matchup that I didn't mention here that you're keeping an eye on. Just let me know what your excitement level is for this series. Who are you rooting for? If you don't have a prediction, who would you just prefer to win ultimately? Honestly, I really don't care. Like, if it's the Knicks, I'm here in New York City. I could go see the Knicks play in a finals game if my Thunder end up there. That'd be super convenient. Or if it's the Pacers, it'd be super cool after the way they started the season rough and, you know, have just been blitzing everybody since then to go ahead and prove a lot of people wrong in that regard. Either way, I don't think basketball fans could lose. It's going to be a great series. Excited to see the way this one turns out. But yeah, appreciate y'all watching. I'll see y'all later. Real one, say it back.